Welcome to the Contract CFO Show, your source for bullshit-free, real talk on finance and business. Here's your host, Michael Anthony.
Welcome back to the Contract CFO Show. I am your host, Michael Anthony. This is the #1 show for learning how to think like a boss and take control of your money. And I could not be more ecstatic to have back with us for part deuce of crypto, all things crypto, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. We might even talk a little Dogecoin. Who the hell knows? But I have with me Paul Bradley, crypto extraordinaire. Again, he's the father of. All right, let me look up my stuff. This is where I'll start making up shit if I don't follow. But 20 plus years in the B2B large enterprise payment engines and applications. Basically, when you pay online, it's because this motherfucker right here figured out shit to make that happen. He's the father of Paycargo.com, the #1 online platform for cargo shipments. He was the head and really driving force of the first team to enable publicly traded banks to settle Litecoin transactions. So basically converting it from crypto and digital world into the paper fiat country money that we use, like US dollars and things. Delivered one of the first crypto to local fiat solutions in the US with Alliant Payments in 2017. And I believe this has released now, or it's releasing, but your CP3me.com in Europe, which is a, explain that actually for a minute, if you would, Paul, because you've talked to me about this, and a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners watch this show and listen in. And so from that standpoint, I feel like when it comes to the US, there's some value for them in that. So what exactly is that?
CP3 or CP3me is this particular product line, is an engine that is through the bank, so it's all regulated and legitimate, and all the funds are safe, and all those nuances for consumer protection. And it allows for an individual or a business to set up basically an account and routing number as if it's their own bank account. And anytime they want to send money through, let's say you have an employee and I want 10% of my paycheck in Bitcoin every week.
Okay.
My engine can do that very easily and put their Bitcoin in their wallet, wherever they tell me to put it. And so it's just an engine. Imagine a filter. So the banking money hits my filter, and on the other side of it is crypto. So that's just a very simple on-ramp. But the way we do it, it's based on big business, volume, B2B, efficiencies, and it's inexpensive, and everything's automated. So
it's an automated, in a sense, like instead of putting 5% or 10% into with companies where they'll have it go into your retirement account or whatever, you can have a percentage go into crypto as an automatic saving platform in essence, right?
Savings, or you just want the conversion piece, because I'm telling you, as much as I hesitate to say this, because I've thought this so many times through the years, surely we're close, right? Excited. Yeah. You're going to start seeing payments, like businesses will settle with other businesses in Bitcoin. And that is just starting to become a thing. And that's
huge.
Well, it's so bizarre. The two worlds are completely different. And let me give you an example of that. And this is, I heard this on a video I saw this week, and it just made sense to me. So Bitcoin, in financial sense, is another language. So here you and I'm speaking English. It's my only language. I'm white bread U.S. United States citizen, and if I had a friend show up that's speaking Czechoslovakian, I'm not going to know what they're saying. And the basis of their verbs, I just don't know what you're saying. So until you can learn that language and say, oh, there's some similarities, but here's their core, here's my core, they're not different. I need to learn Czechoslovakian. So it won't be too much longer if you really put your mind and heart and effort into it, that instead of translating it into your brain from English to Czech, I hope I'm saying that right.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah. So you start, instead of translating it in your brain from English to Czechoslovakian, you just start thinking in Czechoslovakian. I've used a horrible example because I
was like, out of all the languages to pick, you didn't say Spanish, you didn't say French.
I wanted to get an obscure one that nobody's
Czech.
like, oh, I already speak Spanish. It's easy. Yeah. And there are a lot of similarities between Spanish and English. So you can kind of pick through it if you had to.
Yep.
This is a completely different language. And if you don't understand the language, you can't take English and back into it. So I say that because you can't take our current financial landscape and ecosystem and central banks and fit that round peg into a round hole on Bitcoin and take over, and you're off and running. So if you're a professional in fiat, there will be a learning curve, and it's different. It is different. And it's not just, oh yeah, dollars to a different metric. How it behaves is different. And that's the beauty of it. So you start unreeling this and really starting, the corporations have taken this apart and really poked it and tried to break it. And they found some flaws to it. You know, it's not perfect for everything. And in another 50 years, maybe there'll be a better solution or what have you. But right now, this seems to be the working model, and butted up against, you know, your US dollar, the cash in your pocket depreciated 15% last year. That's a big number.
Hold up, say that again. So you're saying that just if I had $100 in my bank account for 2020 and for last year, and today the buying power, because that's depreciation is just fancy words for buying power,
right,
of that $100 is now going to be equivalent to as if I had $85 in my bank account for last year?
That's the number I'm hearing. It's 15%.
Wow. Well, I mean, when we print trillions of dollars, you know, of new money, and our productivity as a nation, which is what supposedly backs the value of it, hasn't gone up trillions of dollars more, there's going to be, it's worth less. It's spread out. The same value spread out amongst more.
The example I heard was the Fed hit a button one morning.
Yep.
And compared to the GDP and time and all of our effort and work and productivity that is valuable to us, was either a day or two. I don't know the exact piece, but it was everybody in the United States, their entire work day, their entire productivity, all their hours, everything, he just manifested with a button. So you think, oh, that's just one day. Figure out how big the GDP is and how many times you can dilute that. And it's crazy how they just manifest. It was never meant, time and money were never meant to just materialize instantly.
Out of nowhere.
And that's what's taking place with central banks right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And guys, for those of you who you may be like, what the hell is fiat? Well, like, what's some of this money stuff? I again recommend to watch What the Fiat is Money. It's a previous episode. We go into that, talking about kind of what is money, where does money get its value, how did the US dollar come to, you know, be what it is today, all that sort of stuff. So watch that episode to catch you up on that sort of stuff. So, all right, Paul, I like last episode, tons of great feedback, lots of people watching it, hearing like, wow, this was really challenging me, and skeptics that were like, man, all right, I'm seeing this in a different light. There's, you brought some heat on just the non-hype, but just facts about crypto and Bitcoin and the blockchain, and simplifying that sort of stuff. And so with that, wanted to, I brought up, hey, while it's on people's minds, and God knows that in the last few weeks in the media, it's only increased. It's like the pace at which this stuff is going, in December and early January, Bitcoin was on it, all of cryptos were on a tear, then they kind of dipped down, and there was this lull, and that's when our episode came out. And now it's like it's not on a tear, it's slowly, things are moving back up, but the pace at which knowledge, and I'll dare to say even some bullshit, is being
fraud.
disseminated, is picking up dramatically. And so from that standpoint, I just want to I'm grateful to have you back on, and your willingness to, you got some crazy shit going on, awesome stuff going on, and to pull out some time to just be able to dig into some of these deeper questions and continue the conversation around crypto. And so thank you very much for being on. So as far as, I do want to go into just real quick, we always like to start, for those of you who are regular watchers and listeners, now's the time to get your drinks out. I love bottles. Seeing now, whoo! All right, what do we got there? What do we got here, Paul?
My nieces and nephews know what I like for Christmas.
I would love some nieces and nephews like you got.
I know, they're good ones. So this is a bottle. I think it's out of Kentucky. Yeah, it's out of Kentucky.
It's called Little Book.
Single barrel Little Book. Let's see. It's got a proof on it that'll light you up. It's over. I think it's like 118 or something.
Holy shit! That's like pretty much just they didn't even add water.
Right out of the barrel. Small batch.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I have here my kind of go-to Casa Noble, single barrel as well, tequila reposado, and I like the cup there. So during this section, guys, I want you at home. Look, you guys aren't posting or saying much for us to celebrate on here, and that's all right, because human nature, I know how it is. I watch shit while I'm on a treadmill or I'm doing other things, and it's like, oh, I'll get to it. Here's what you can do right now. You can pause and think of something in your life, in your business, that you're kicking ass at, that you're moving forward on, that isn't the same today as it was last week, or isn't the same today as it was last month, or even yesterday. And that is something to celebrate, because business moves forward incrementally. It's one of those things where day by day, it doesn't seem like change happens, yet year by year, things can be completely different. And so from that standpoint, I want to say to all of you out there hustling, busting your ass, getting the grind on, and just moving forward because of your inner desire to create a tomorrow that's better than today, I say cheers to you. And Paul, for you as well, cheers to you, brother. I know you have some exciting here. Well, you got some exciting things since last time. I say you could put a lighter in front of that. If you spend like maybe a minute or something, 2 minutes, talking about, as far as, you got some very exciting things popping right now on in your life. You celebrated last episode your 50th birthday with us, and since then life has just been moving quick. And so share with us a little bit, if you would.
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this last time. Probably not, because it's pretty hot off the press. But
all right. All right, breaking news.
One of the pieces that's crucial in my ecosystem is that a lot of the competition for me, there are one or two banks in the US that specialize in this. And so you get cookie cutter services and not the kind of good banking commercial stuff that I'm used to. So there are a lot of consumer products, high prices, monthly fees. Crypto is unique, so banks know they can charge the hell out of it, and they do.
Okay.
So you're like,
not,
are these?
The banks are taking advantage of
Everyone
the
is.
situation. Yeah,
Everyone.
and I'm not attacking banks.
And what'll bring the prices down are more banks doing it in competition. But right now,
free market.
You have a semi-risky asset because you're not quite sure what it is yet, and you figure out a process that's legal, you do it, and you charge people for it. So I didn't want to go down that road, and I did it first, and I literally scrapped everything and walked away. So that was almost like a life-changing moment for me. And then the second option is to have foreign banks, but that's not going to work in my situation. So to have a powerful, established, publicly traded bank, US, that's my cornerstone, literally, because that's how you make things happen. And it's a difficult cart before the horse. You got to come in got to get their attention with big numbers, which we didn't have. There are a lot of conflicts to it, but I was determined to go down this road, and with my partner as well. So essentially what happened was we got rejected, high level conversation. So it's not like I'm talking to a teller. We're talking to senior members. They evaluate it and decide, you're just not doing enough volume. So there are lots of choices that I had, but one of my partners out there, the card issuer, he's got great relationships and he's able to open doors for me. So he's really excited about what we're doing. We have huge numbers together. And so he said, get this project, all the numbers, 5 years, every month to the hour, tell me what's coming in, all the throughputs, all the metrics, all spreadsheets for days. And we're going to get it to him the week before the Super Bowl. And then I'm going to take the CEO to the Super Bowl. And then we're going to talk about it because we're friends. And I think that's going to bring some light to your project, and we're going to get off the ground here. So I'm like, that's how business is done. If somebody's having a meeting at the Super Bowl on my behalf, that's pretty awesome. So
hey, I will cheers to that. Yeah, and for those of you watching, the Super Bowl has already happened, but guess what? We time warped. But the Super Bowl is just a little hair away from when we're recording this, so it's not we're not too far off in that. And man, I cheers that, because you have been busting your ass behind the scenes. When a lot of people might feel entitlement and like, oh, I need to, my birthday and it's a 5-0 and I need to this and that. I
worked all day.
And there is something life-giving to working on our birthdays. Not it doesn't have to happen every year and whatever, but it's like, for me, it's, man, when I have something that I'm passionate about as an entrepreneur, that I'm, in a very real sense, we as small business owners, we're giving birth, not to physical humans, we're giving birth to businesses, to creating, widgets and ideas and concepts and that become functional in everyday life. And I guarantee that, 10 years from now, the shit that you are working on right now is going to be woven into the fabric, the underlying fabric of society, on levels to where we don't think twice about it, yet it's only there because you unselfishly and also selfishly, having the right picture, casting the right vision, decided to sacrifice short term for the long term. So boom, congratulations on that.
It was real. So the dialogue went something like this. We had a COVID outbreak in our dev team. all the people that were bringing all the data to the table, they just disappeared overnight, and you can't pursue them. They're underwater. I don't.
COVID.
We hope they're well. They are well at this point, but I had to ask myself. I knew the hill I was looking up. It was going to be all weekend. My guys were out because of natural causes, and I said, "There's no way in hell I'm stopping now." So whatever this looks like, I'm not stopping. If it comes down to me, I'm gonna carry the load. So it literally came down to that conversation in my head. I was like, okay, well, I don't really have a choice, so let's just do it.
And that right there, that is entrepreneurship.
Hey guys, Michael Anthony here, and I have a question for you. Are you out of work or unhappy with your career? Are you tired of your boss giving you crappy raises? How about not being able to provide the life you want for you or your loved ones? Do you earn great money, but you're just tired of being someone else's bitch? If so, I invite you to visit workwithsymmetry.com/change to learn about the career that forever transformed the trajectory of my life. And it could change yours too. Like I said, this career isn't for everyone. But if you're unhappy where you're at, I encourage you to go to workwithsymmetry.com/change and take control of your life.
And if you're watching this show, if you're listening in through, I don't know, listen on Spotify, they're better than Apple. Just saying. Oh man, shit. I'm not hating on Apple. Everyone listens through Apple. But guys, this is what entrepreneurship is about. And it isn't, I would venture to say, Paul, you didn't when you were a kid say, man, crypto and banking that's what's going to keep me up and fire me up. It was, you are taking a passion and something that over time you've developed and chosen to make it a passion of yours, and also having that vision of desiring the end result of it and merging it together. And so, you know, for those of you watching and listening, and you may be at home like, man, fuck, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? You know, what's my idea? When am I going to have something that keeps me up and has me work through my birthday weekend with the reality is you did have a choice, Paul. You had a choice,
I did.
but in your mind, you said, I don't have any choice. And that speaks to the level of commitment you've reached. And any of us that have been there and are there with our businesses understand that. For those of you who don't, it's like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, to me, it's about, you just become faithful with what's before you, what's in front of you, what opportunity. Even if you hate the job you're at, get really fucking good at it. Like, get so good at it that they promote you, and or you have an opportunity to off ramp and move to something else. And it may not be the end all be all, but it's gradual steps and growth and maximizing the opportunities in front of you so that you learn the habits of giving a shit about things, so that by the time you have something, and maybe you start working on the side on something of yours, you know, like we were talking about last, episode about overnight success. You know, the hardest part of an overnight success is the 10 years it takes to get there. And, you know, you're hustling on the side with that, but you're learning how to become faithful with it. Because I'm a firm believer that the way we do one thing, we do everything. And I know for me, when I was shitty at the jobs I didn't like, I also was being shitty and slacking on the things that I did care about. And when I finally said, you know what, I'm going all in life, that's when things started changing. So I just want to encourage you at home, wherever you're at, just be faithful and don't be complacent. Don't be complacent, because if you're complacent and if you're busting your ass on someone else's dream and you become complacent, you've become their bitch. Like, at that moment, you are just living their life plan for you instead of your life plan for you. And there's a give and take in, you know, I will say every place I've worked, I know, Paul, like every place I've worked, I've made it a point to leave more value there than I took. when and make it to where uh they are grateful I was there and sad that I'm going, from that standpoint. And that's, I feel like, what's helped me in entrepreneurship. All right. That's a side little thing. Let's get into crypto. All right. Now, I'm going to make another big ass disclaimer here. Big ass disclaimer. We're having conversations. Paul and I do own crypto. I will say for myself, I do own Bitcoin. I do own Litecoin. I own some other small little shit coins here and there that I learned, not because at this point, really, I actually just cashed out. Actually, I think I cashed them all out because I was just like, fuck this. That was like me going to a casino and, putting money on Black 64 or something like that. And just, seeing what happens. Not investing. And let me tell you, I had more fun at a casino than, than putting it in shit coins. Which, for those of you who don't know, shit coins are basically, you have your 4 blue chip, which are, what are they, Paul?
Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash.
Boom. Those are like your big daddies in the room. Of course, things can change in the future, a little here or there. But those are the ones really being implemented by banks, being implemented in the financial systems, and trading volume on things over a long period of time. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, they're taking on a life of their own in the ecosystem versus their community pushing it all the time. If that makes sense. It's
becoming self-sustaining.
Yeah, we're less cheerleaders and more just along for the ride at this point.
There we go. And so those, for the most part, guys, when we're talking crypto, those are the crypto we're talking about because they have a proven track record. We're going to get into hopefully Dogecoin a little bit, just regarding some of that. But all right. So
and let me add on to that, just because it's etching in my brain as you're saying it.
Yes.
Those are the 4 main cryptocurrencies. But on my product, I only use 3. I use Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin.
Okay.
So I just wanted to add that because I'm a proponent of Litecoin over Bitcoin Cash, but Bitcoin Cash is along for the ride too. But if you look at them side for side, I put my hat on Litecoin.
All right. Very good. Very good. And so with that, from a disclaimer standpoint, everything we're talking about, it may be advice we take for ourselves. It may be something we say and, we find out further information as we get down the road, or something changes and we pivot. Anything you do is done as a result of your free will and choice. This is not financial investing advice. This is not legal advice. This is 2 dudes having a conversation about what we believe is the best route to go. Then we can be fully wrong about all of it with that. And also, I think as far as, because we might get into the Wall Street bets a little bit. And as far as I've said on previous shows, I do own silver because I think they're trying to drive up silver, or maybe it's down. Who the hell knows with that? Also, I do own some AMC. So I'm getting all these disclaimers out. And really, I just love the fucking movies. I love the movies. And it's kind of I'm like, oh, I hope they survive. So anyways, I think, and I don't know, we may talk about something that we end up owning or whatever, but we're not advising it or any of that jazz. Hopefully all that's covered. If you lose $1 billion, that's your own fucking fault. That's the disclaimer right there. So now we can get into the fun part, Paul. We can get into the conversation. And so as far as I want to lead out actually with, I've had a few people through different ways kind of ask this question and you touched on it a little bit last time. But as far as regarding, okay, so Gary V Someone sent me a clip where and it's one of those, it's been in my mind as well. And I have answers. I want to hear yours. He says, and he owns Bitcoin and whatever. But he goes, everyone says it's decentralized. You can't put it down, this and that and whatever. But do you think Russia, China, and US are going to let it go without down at some point in the future without making it illegal, trying to global ban it or something like that? Kind of what's, and then in the news, since we aired this last one, we see India's trying to ban crypto. What's your thoughts and opinions on that?
So I don't have the answer, and I can pretty much say the odds of countries banning it depends on how threatened they are, right? But I will tell you that India has brought this up recently, and if you look at the volume of trading in India, it has gone up.
Since they tried to ban it.
Yeah, no, it's gone up, and because it's decentralized, it's gone like a roach. You turn on the light, it's gone to all the corners. Pakistan, same thing. Pakistan banned it because people, it's very efficient. They have inexpensive electricity in Pakistan.
Okay.
And so it was easy to do. And so Pakistan went in and banned it. And then it went underground. Volumes went through the roof. And then now Pakistan has come in as a state sponsor and has made it legal, but underneath their regulations. And now the Pakistan as a state has its own mining facilities.
So it went from we're not looking at it to illegal to, okay, well, hey, how can we make money off it, basically?
And think about in the United States. I can tell you that this is not the formula the U.S. has centralized to succeed. Give up the world reserve and allow some cryptocurrency that they have no control over to dominate markets.
Yep.
That's not in their roadmap.
No,
that is not in their roadmap. But what is in their roadmap is competing with other countries and to allow innovation. So they're in a really sticky situation. If the U.S. were to ban crypto, then and parentheses, assuming this is continuing to go forward, and I'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But because there's always been the stigma of what if Bitcoin goes to zero, right?
Yep.
So you can't go out and build an economy completely around it, because what if it fails?
Okay.
So that question has just evaporated. So the what if it fails question, if you see the integration happening and the players that are, I mean, you're talking about major enterprises failing because they're clueless and don't know what they're doing and have no visibility to what's going. They do. They've got more visibility than I do, for sure.
Yeah.
So this isn't stopping. It's getting more and more. And you're going to have some Bitcoin exposure in this new economy. And it's COVID driven. It's crazy stuff's happening that you can't quantify sitting at your home, but it's happening everywhere, and things are changing. Everyone has the same dialogue and story. They've gone from business meetings and business conferences to really exotic microphones and cameras. And that business has pivoted. Now, notice larger enterprises' websites. Boy, they're getting revamped left and right. And it's good. It's great. That's your only exposure to that company. And now social media marketing, any kind of a website exposure, it's all, they have that OmniPoint type piece, meaning that I can pay online, I can go into a store, there are all these points you can interact, and it's in business, we've been talking about it for 5 years.
Yeah.
Digital, but it's happening literally overnight now.
It's been being forced rather than milking the old system for everything that it's worth. It was a forced pivot that is causing a influx of innovation and reevaluating status quo. And I appreciate what you were saying as part of your you said it more diplomatically than I will, on Bitcoin being around and that sort of thing, where I go, yeah, Russia, China, Iran, the US, like it could bring them together, to being like, what the hell do we do? How do we control
we'll fight over Bitcoin.
Yeah. But that actually could end up happening, because at the end of the day, if you like, my worldview is there's been kind of a peace treaty between governments with power and banks with power, and they kind of work together, for the most part. And now, to me though, where I think we really are in this world is banks run the world, and they just let the governments have a place for the banks to run the world. That's part of my worldview on that. And from that standpoint, when I see banks implementing in crypto in their roadmaps, and like you talk about, from that standpoint, and where it's like they wouldn't be integrating in their future into something that they see the US just one day deciding, nope, it's shut down, it's gone. Like they're swinging and pivoting, and you look at
why? I'll tell you
exactly
why. So the notion that Bitcoin is going to go to zero out in the world is literally drying up.
Yeah. I hear more and more people saying that.
If you look at the law of averages and means, if you're a mathematician and you can measure the rise of the rise of Bitcoin, you can understand that the first chapter is wrapping up. The first chapter is, what is it? How does it work? How do we integrate it? What does it mean? And so that's kind of already out there. The second chapter is, what do we do with it? So if you look at the last 10 or 11 years of Bitcoin, 10 years, I guess.
Okay.
You can mathematically see that it's going up about 50% annually, if you like boil it all down. And then you can
averaging 50% annually.
So, that's not fancy maneuvering. Now compare that to a bond or a yield of a bond at 3% or 2% or 0.5%. So you can get 10 and 20-year bonds now that a bank can sell for 10 and 15%. And they get to keep the other massive amount of money. I mean, you're buying a bond that has a fraction of a Bitcoin tied to it for future earnings, but they get to keep the lion's share of. I mean, that's how banks work. Banks will love that.
Hey guys, Michael Anthony here, and I have a question for you. Are you out of work or unhappy with your career? Are you tired of your boss giving you crappy raises? How about not being able to provide the life you want for you or your loved ones? Do you earn great money, but you're just tired of being someone else's bitch? If so, I invite you to visit workwithsymmetry.com/change to learn about the career that forever transformed the trajectory of my life. And it could change yours too. Like I said, this career isn't for everyone. But if you're unhappy where you're at, I encourage you to go to workwithsymmetry.com/change and take control of your life.
So insurance companies, you're not going to be able to be an insurance company and not have exposure to Bitcoin, because all it's going to do is take one insurance company to take some exposure. And I'm not saying they have to buy it. There's that Grayscale Trust. There are lots of places you can have exposure to it. There are different ways you can put it on your balance sheets. There are different ways you can do GAAP accounting and depreciate it. There are all these tools that corporations have that they know what they're doing in their treasury, and you can't ignore this. So the first insurance company that has exposure to this and gets that 50% year over year, then no other insurance company is even going to be in their ballpark from a cash and treasury control type piece. So in theory, you could charge a fraction of the monthly pieces from your consumers, for life insurance, and still give them a large insurance policy, because you're essentially just converting everything to Bitcoin and riding a Bitcoin wave up 50% every year. Not every, I'm not talking about 100% of your treasury, but you got to balance it. But
even if you did 1%, like for the amount of, converting 1% could end up offsetting the growth. I don't have all the math in front of me, but if you have 1% that grows at 50%, that's gonna, that would be the same as, probably, I don't know, 20 or, 20% in just sitting in a fucking cash account.
Well, it's not in a cash
30%.
account. But the Bitcoin in this insurance equation,
yep,
if it's evolved enough, they own the Bitcoin, or they have exposure to it, and it's going up. So it's a fantastic model to where banks and insurance companies are not going to be able to not be in and not have exposure to this. Yeah. They're just not.
Their survival won't. It'll be dependent on being exposed, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because and let's talk just real quick. Part of the reason on that is because of interest rates being pretty much zero and even negative over in parts of the rest of the world.
Europe sent out a notice recently for the next 6 months, letting corporations know we're headed to zero and negative interest rates. So that's gone out recently. What are they going to do? Just suck it up and pay all those new costs, or maneuver to what's making money?
And for those of you watching, if you didn't catch in the last episode, we talk about this in more detail. But in essence, when an interest rate goes negative, it starts costing money to keep instead of a bank paying you money it costs the bank money to keep money. And so they start charging, on that, instead of traditionally they'll charge something, they have fees and all that sort of stuff. That's profit centers. Or, they'll pay a 0.01%, or 0.0001% of interest on a savings account or something, if you have $100,000 sitting with them. Well, they're able to do that because they're making small amounts of money. Back in the 80s, they were making a shit ton of money on it, which they'd give people, 10%, for having money sitting in a savings account. Well, when negative interest rates kick in, if using that $100 from earlier as an example, instead of the bank giving me interest on it, I will now have to pay the bank for the right to keep my money in their bank. Or if the bank doesn't charge me for it, the bank has to pay the central banks. So it's like the bank to the banks that, is tied to the governments. Those banks are charging them for my money and your money sitting in it, instead of them making money on it. So it's a complete flip of a business model. So what Paul's talking about is they need to have profits somehow, somewhere. They need to make money. Any business does, to stay alive. And that's where the exposure to crypto is going to be too enticing for them to look past. Would you say that's accurate?
No, it's not that it's enticing. It is, cash flow is the lifeblood of any industry. And if you're not making money, you're going away. And right now in the US, companies are trying to appease their shareholders They're not making the kind of money they're needing, and they're giving out derivatives. So instead of companies making money, they're giving money away.
Yeah.
And that's simply not these are the same companies that manufacture our goods and services, employ our relatives and loved ones, and all, like they are finagling to make the current system still work, and it's failing them. It is failing them.
They're playing with old rules in a new game. Or
they're speaking English instead of Czechoslovakian.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say also, would you agree with this at all, Paul? In my mind, we've had an old playbook that's, regarding fiat that's been around for, millennia.
Mm-hmm.
And well, maybe not millennia, but
1971. Let's just call it that.
Okay. All right. The current game, of it. So 1971 with the, yeah. So now there's a new playbook, but we're in this transitionary period where the old structures and establishments are still here. There's this new, and there's a transferring happening. And it's not going to be like one replaces the other, but they're going to they're going to merge. And there's going to have to be a merging where, banks are going to survive. They're going to find a way to survive. They're not going to give up power willingly. Governments are going to find ways to survive.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to give up power willingly.
It's not a zero-sum game. It's not a zero-sum game.
No. Yeah. So it's this merger, and that's where things can be kind of, man, I'm so confused. The way it's quote unquote always been isn't working today. It hasn't worked for the last year, or, slowly over the last 15 years, that type of thing, or 10 years at least. And that's where some of this, if you're watching or listening and you're like, how does this, okay, what you're saying makes sense, but at the same time, it's been this way for so long. What's different? Well, all these things we're talking about are different. The printing of trillions of dollars out of nowhere, that's different. The crypto sphere and acceptance of it globally, different. What is S&P 500 companies converting, billions of dollars of their cash reserves into crypto? That's different. Like all these things are different, like different as in not even around 2 years ago, different, like the rate of pace with COVID and all that sort of stuff. And so we have to adapt new thinking to thrive in a new economic playbook. So, all right. That let's get to some of these good questions here. All right. So some of these, in my mind, might be fairly simple, but I want to ask them because they're questions that I've gotten. So someone asked me, and they didn't say this exact, but basically they were like, I don't have thousands of dollars to invest in a Bitcoin. Bitcoin right now, I think it's around 37,000. It's been everywhere from 30 to 40, 41,000 in the last month. It's a bit volatile. That's normal. That said, they're like, I don't have thousands of dollars to invest in a Bitcoin. How is this relevant for me? What can I do? And what would you say to that, Paul? Kind of going the route of a Satoshi, and what are Satoshis, and
okay. So what I would say to that is this, and we don't know the future, but we know the past, and we see where things are trending, and we can do math. So, number one, if you just want a little bit of exposure to have it, me personally, I'd buy a Litecoin. I have people call me regularly, like, how do you buy it? Will you sell me 2 Litecoin? And I'm like, no. I'm not. I'm not involved in this transaction. I don't make money from this transaction. I'm having this conversation because I like you as a friend, and I want to see your family thrive. So I have no skin in the game. Well, why don't we have lunch and you can sell me some Litecoin? Again, that's
you're not getting it.
Yeah. So I've turned into a tech support system, and I'm weaning away from that as
There
we
we
speak.
go. There we go.
But
just direct them to this. Direct them to this right here.
so there's a lot going on. So if you just want a little bit of exposure, get a Litecoin. Get a Litecoin at PayPal. Stupid easy. But with all these, there are nuances with all your purchases. So,
Yep.
But if you just want a little exposure, PayPal works for now.
Okay. And what's your take? Well, PayPal's going to be the most consumer friendly, option out there from people are familiar with PayPal. I myself, integrated. Yeah, they're integrated. I like Coinbase Pro. I as far as it's a little more complicated, but I do like from what my understandings with PayPal, and maybe they've changed some of this, but it's somewhat of a locked system.
They haven't changed it. There's a reason they're doing it.
Okay. So from that standpoint, whereas with Coinbase Pro, I buy it, I can bring it wherever I want versus keeping it where it's at. I want to circle up on that, what you're saying about PayPal. But first, would you unpack for people kind of, okay, because Litecoin is actually a coin. Like I said, I own some of it, or not some of it. I own Litecoins. And in this particular cycle, we're hearing in the news a lot about Bitcoin, a ton about Ethereum, and not a whole lot. Like there's some people that are saying things about Litecoin, about, even Bitcoin Cash, but Litecoin is definitely getting a lot more attention than Bitcoin Cash. What is, if you could educate people watching, the difference between, like, why Litecoin?
All right, so Bitcoin is a first mover. So that everybody knows Bitcoin, and Bitcoin has utility.
Yep.
Ethereum, it's similar to Bitcoin from a cryptocurrency and moving money, but you can add a very simple mechanism on its back that they call a smart contract. And so that's unique. It was a first mover smart contract.
Okay. And a smart contract would be, in the future, I could buy a house from you without lawyers, without realtors, without banks.
Yeah.
Because it's programmed that certain criteria are going to be met. It's built in the searches on the blockchain that the land is owned by you, that sort of stuff, and it can be transferred in a transaction.
It's simple, like if this then type pieces. It's not a really complicated, it's just, if this happens, do this.
Okay.
And it's a permanent piece. So in a house scenario, we would both agree, if your bank account, if the inspection goes well and a certain date hits, and I put a down payment in a certain account, then that would trigger the event. So the inspector says, yep, no, everything looks good, and hits in his system good. The Ethereum contract sees it, picks it up, and now it's holding a piece of the puzzle. I put a $25,000 deposit in your account. You send me a receipt. The contract sees it, picks it up. It's just laying in wait until it has all the puzzle pieces and becomes a key and executes something. So you don't need the lawyers. You don't need you and I can do this ourselves. You get the money, everything aligns. Then the contract goes out and files the paperwork with the government. It does the all the pieces. I don't know much about it, but all the mechanics, it does. So you don't need a settlement agent, you don't need a lawyer, you don't need an appointment. You just do it. And that's kind of what the internet did in a lot of ways, but this is the internet of money. It really is.
And with Ethereum, now Bitcoin has a fixed amount that will ever exist, which
I think it's 21 million.
Yeah, and there's X number that are lost. So I think it's like maybe 17 million, and that will be in circulation or something like that. So there's a fixed amount. We can't create any more Bitcoin, which does help it drives up value of that.
Scarcity.
Ethereum, though, they can create more Ethereum, or there's some sort of schedule of it being created on certain amounts. So it's a little more like fiat from that standpoint. Now,
But
okay.
to the Ethereum point, because it took me a while to understand, if there's no number to Ethereum, why is it going up in value? So it still is that economic scarcity model, in the sense that whenever you're using a smart contract, that Ethereum is out of the market. So if you and I do X amount of Ethereum, I don't know, let's just call it $100,000 house, and we've got 50 Ethereum, and Ethereum's at 2,000. That's just easy math.
Okay. Yep.
Then that 50 Ethereum is locked up. It's not in the liquidity supply of available.
Circulating.
And right now, through DeFi and all these uses of the utility of Ethereum, Ethereum is falling off the shelf, and it's harder and harder to get.
Okay.
So my projects, I'm having to pay more fees. I'm having to pay more for Ethereum, and that's what's working right now. So Ethereum has the largest assets under management number than any other. It's a first mover. So it's,
okay.
Even though it's slow and cumbersome, and like Bitcoin, it does not seem to be going away from a better, sexier, younger model. They're building to these ecosystems to the point where, why Litecoin? So
that's what I was going to say. So for someone watching and they're like, well, shit, Ethereum sounds phenomenal. Why Litecoin?
They're all good. So Ethereum's what, $1,600-$1,700 a coin as we're speaking. Bitcoin's, we'll just call it 36,000.
Yep.
The numbers may be more in a couple of weeks when this airs. So Litecoin, what's its use in that ecosystem? Well, number one, it's been around for a while. There was no pre-mine. It's a very fair system that's out there and fair. So that's established. It's never gone down.
Pre-mine, are you talking about, are there coins where the person who invents it is like holding back certain amount?
So
and then
there you go. So it's available to everyone, but I've mined 20% of the share for me. So that's not really fair.
It's a get rich quick for myself.
Yeah, and anybody who's
that's not like
coin. Yeah, no, that Ripple's in a lot of trouble for that right now.
Okay.
So Litecoin has just been a pure IT play. So they're always developing, and by developing, they're integrating into the current system. They are trying to integrate into the current system rules, regulations. It's not some promising, it's the not sexy Toyota Camry of the cars. It's just a slow, it's not a Lamborghini. It's a simple, it's got liquidity, so it's everywhere Bitcoin is.
Okay.
So it's universal. It's Bitcoin's little brother. And why does Bitcoin need a little brother? Because this is technology, and things are always evolving. So Litecoin has become the beta testing environment for any kind of major upgrades that go into the Bitcoin network. So right now, there's multisig was one of them. SegWit was one of them. There are all these things that have gone onto Bitcoin that have made Bitcoin stronger that first were housed in Litecoin. So right now, the project Litecoin has is called, I think they call it MWeb, but it's off of a Harry Potter Mimblewimble, I think is what a Harry Potter spell. And what Mimblewimble is going to do is produce functionality. What's the functionality? What's the word?
Functionality?
Not functionality, fungibility. That's the word.
Okay.
And what fungibility is the ability for every coin to have the same value. Let me give you an example. Today, if I'm in Iran and I have a Litecoin and I try to buy a chia pet out of China because I love chia pets, that transaction is going to get flagged because we have U.S. sanctions against Iran, and that Litecoin will be black flagged as a Iranian, don't touch this coin. So think about that with gold. If I have a gold coin that doesn't have a stamp on it, it's just 1 ounce of melted gold. The fungibility of that is you're going to, assuming it's real gold,
Yep.
You don't care where it came from. It's gold. It doesn't have a history or baggage to it. It's gold. And so that right now you can go in and look at anybody's wallet. You can't, I couldn't see your name attached to it, but I could eventually find your wallet. I wouldn't know it was yours, but once I found your wallet, I could see what you spent, where you spend it, who you're giving. I can see way too much information there. I can't figure out it's yours, but
so you don't know who's doing these transactions. You just know someone is doing them.
Yeah, and you can triangulate your way back into it too. So if we can remove that to where you don't see the history of the coin, but rather just a digital asset, that is a function of money, which is the fungibility piece of it.
Which happens with fiat money.
Oh, dollars, yeah.
It goes back into the treasuries, they mix it and redistribute.
Yeah. So it's nothing sinister, shady, or any of that. I tell you a good point that I saw somewhere. 0.3% of cryptocurrency has been involved in some sort of mischievous transaction.
So that was another question I had, as far as, okay, yeah, there's these things, but you know, the Silk Road and the dark web, isn't it really just for a bunch of, you know, hoodlums and gangsters and, you know, nasty shit in the world?
So 0.3 of Bitcoin transactions have been involved in nasty shit. Yet 30% of our $100 bills have cocaine traces on it. So you do the math on
that. Could there be a PR reason why that message has been pumped out so much? You know,
yeah, no,
a little
there's
afraid of what's coming.
Well, we live in the United States, or basically the civilized world these days. We're constantly under some sort of propaganda attack between political ads and fear. A lot of it's just fear.
Yeah.
And it's just nutty. I'm losing faith, as a lot of people are, in what I hear and why my chosen leader of this massive country is making certain decisions that affect my life. But is that really why they're doing it? Is there another agenda? And you know, I pushed back from the table. I couldn't sleep. All these strangers had my future in their hands. And I wasn't cool with that. They don't have my best interests in mind. They have their family's best interests in mind. I'm not a fool. So it's Bitcoin is a special entity for me right now.
So, all right. So let's talk about Bitcoin. And we've even referenced, okay, well, hold up, to get back to Litecoin for a quick second.
Yeah,
so
please.
Isn't it Litecoin is around and really set to stay? What I'm hearing from you is because it's attached to the hip with Bitcoin, in the sense of Bitcoin needs Litecoin to exist because it's where the betas happen in it. It's where everything that moves on. And for those who don't know, Litecoin, correct me on this, but Litecoin, basically the code for Bitcoin was taken and used for Litecoin. So they're very similar, except there's like maybe
it's one of the first forks of Bitcoin was Litecoin.
Okay, and with that, there's like there's a fixed amount of Litecoin, and there's like 4 times the amount of Litecoin than Bitcoin.
And Litecoin is 4 times faster. So there's a reason for that.
Yeah. So it can handle 4 times the volume with it. Now, as far as for somebody, because Litecoin is
not 4 times the volume, 4 times faster of a transaction.
Okay, 4 times. What that would mean on the
blockchain.
The blockchain, it could handle 4 times. Then,
well, there's scheduled block times. So I think let's say Bitcoin's every 10 minutes, regardless of the volume.
Okay.
Let's say Litecoin's every 2.5 minutes, regardless of the volume. But it's more of a frequency.
Okay. All right. And so from that standpoint, there's a lot of hype out there for someone who, if someone you're watching this here, you're listening to this, and then you're like, oh man, I want to get into crypto, and you're gonna hear, okay, instead of Bitcoin, go here, or Ethereum, through the moon, and blah 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 blah. What is it that has you still a believer in
it's
Litecoin?
Not a matter. So that's a great way to peel all that away. So you have other coins like Digibyte and Verge, and everybody has the same message. We're next. We're big. We're better than Bitcoin. All that. So it's very confusing. So specifically, why Litecoin?
Yep.
I'm a banker, so I don't take these speculative risks. I know that Litecoin has the exact same custody solutions and all the same benefits of Bitcoin from the same provider. So if I'm a bank, I'm going to go to a custody solutions provider like Paxos. That's who does PayPal. So PayPal never touches.
What is a custody
PayPal
solutions?
or a bank will never touch a cryptocurrency. Period. End of story.
Okay.
So if I'm a bank, I don't say, okay, well, I take crypto now. It's just that easy of a decision. It's just a business personal decision. We've decided we're going to take crypto now. It just doesn't work like that. Okay. So you have to have custody solutions, hold the Bitcoin, provide the proper regulatory accounting, all the pieces to where it folds into a bank's portfolio effortlessly, and the bank has no risk. That's the most important thing. Banks don't take risk. So these are going to be storage solutions. Imagine if it's gold. This is all electronic gold. Every bank would need a big safe to keep their gold in.
Okay.
So in this solution, the big safe is remote. The big safe is virtual, and you don't have to mess with it. You don't have to worry about any of it. You don't have to buy a safe. It's just you have these services provided to you as if you had it in a safe in your bank. But you never, ever are going to process or touch a Bitcoin, ever.
Okay.
So that's my world. I take the Bitcoin, I stop it here, and I continue on with the banks through fiat currency, but it's that same transaction. And I can go to crypto, to fiat, but there is a line there. And that's my space. That's that bridge. So a bank is going to have a custody solution. A bank doesn't want wild swings in pricing. A bank is going to want something boring as hell and predictable and simple. And every banker that I've talked to, which is a lot, in the last 4 years, when I say, hey, my horse is Litecoin, but these are my 4, but I'm really pushing for, these are my guys. They always say, yeah, no, I'm a Litecoin fan too. So it's just in the banking world of what we're allowed to take, because there's certainly sexier, more fun, exciting projects out there.
Yep.
But Litecoin is connected through the integration, through all these pieces, because it's been with Bitcoin since the beginning. Has all the liquidity, the easy on, the easy off. It's on every exchange. It's everywhere. And that alone is enough. It's not going away. So I believe Litecoin, compared to Bitcoin, is horribly undervalued. So you look at one Bitcoin that is 4 times more, supposed to be in theory if they were equal, then Litecoin has 4 times. So you would divide 30,000 by 4, which is 7,500. That should be the natural price of just from simple math.
Yeah, or 35,000. That's 8,750 per.
There you go.
Yeah,
exactly. So
versus
with that, you're either a genius or have access to a calculator. So the notion that Litecoin is so undervalued because people are still figuring out what's real and what's not real. To me, there's an extraordinary safe, I'm not off on some weird Southeast Asian website, like you say, with a shitcoin, because it's going to be the next biggest thing. And I've got $20,000 in some website that I don't even know anything of. Like, there's so much danger in that.
Yeah.
There's so much danger in that. Whether it gets you this time, it's like a heavy equipment operator. You don't wear safety gear, you can survive a day out in the field without dying.
Yep.
But one of those days, you're going to get wrecked. Physically,
one of those days will be your last day.
And I wish I had helmet on. I wish I had some protection. So that's the world out there. So if you're in Litecoin, is it going to do 100x this year? It's not. It's I'm calling it now. I could be wrong, but no, it's not going to do it. Okay, but could it do a 5 or 10 or 15? Yeah. And is that a stable path? That's not going to be it's a lot more established path than anything else that hasn't gotten the value yet. So Bitcoin was first, and you're seeing Ethereum. Ethereum's probably going to be second. And then I think Litecoin, if you look at the oscillation, which is like the value between Bitcoin and Litecoin, because they change.
Okay.
We're at one of the lowest oscillating points of 4 years. So if Litecoin follows its trajectory as it has since its creation, we're within 90 days of it making a huge move to catch up more where Bitcoin is.
Okay.
So that's why I'm in my lion's share is in Litecoin right now, because I sleep at night and it's boring. I'm not going to wake up and it's zero, and this is its season. So I love watching Bitcoin soar because I'm tied to the hip with Bitcoin.
Yep.
But I really personally feel the Litecoin moves the most.
And I appreciate hearing that, because there's logic in it from a standpoint of, I'm almost reminded of, people talk about value stocks, the like General Mills and, at one point GE, just the things where Johnson & Johnson, where it's like, they aren't, cereal's not sexy, making, soup isn't exciting, but it's something that people can use day in and day out, and it makes money.
Yeah, it does.
And Litecoin, in a sense, what I'm hearing you say is Litecoin is like the value stock of cryptos, where it's not sexy, it's not the latest thing, it's not whatever. However, it has a proven track record. It's the underestimated and undervalued, it's like if what is that? Oh God, I feel like I'm gonna make some bad analogy, but I'm just gonna go with it.
Can't be worse than Czechoslovakian, so you're good.
Well, it's like going to a club with like, and it was a woman I heard describe this. So don't hate on me here. But basically, like, go into the club with a super hot, like girlfriend, where you're the number two from a standpoint. If that super hot girlfriend is also a little standoffish and what have you, it's like people are going to pivot to you. You're going to get boys, or girls, or whatever you're into. You're going to get attention because you're with this person, and this person can only handle so much. So by association, you're going to get some. Well, I guess maybe you'll get some as well.
So yeah,
Litecoin
is
get
the
attention.
short, dumpy girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like you could be a good-looking person, but if you're next to the hotter person, like,
I agree.
It's going to bring a higher caliber of opportunities to you.
So with your example,
yes.
To your example exactly, right now that's popular out in the CFO and CEO circles is this notion that Bitcoin can do all these things for your company and we need exposure. And through those conversations, they will find that Litecoin does the exact same thing, and it balances, to have one or two versus just one, or three or four versus just one. There is a portfolio balance piece to that. So all the features that these corporations are salivating and getting all excited about Bitcoin for, Litecoin's built into that, like you're the number 2 hot chick of a club. So you're right.
Yep. All right. That's great. Hopefully you guys at home are getting something from this and appreciating that. So as far as just one last thing, I got a just question for you, because it's all over the internet right now, talking about hot coins out there and speculative and what have you. Dogecoin. What is your take on Dogecoin? What do you know about it, or do you not know a ton about it? Kind of what's your thought?
So I don't know a ton about it.
Okay.
But I see it. There are a lot of people out there. I know it's the dog. And
Yep.
I know that I think that it was kind of started as a joke, but I don't know much about it, but it's a crowd pleaser. It's easy to get behind it, and it's fun, and people can pivot to it on the TikTok and internet, and everyone say, go get a Dogecoin, and it'll go up. It's part of that GameStop type active mentality, but I wouldn't put money in it. I just don't know enough about it to invest in it, other than if I'm chasing stuff. And I don't chase, so it's not really part of my mission objective, but it's a wild one. And what's his name? Elon Musk. Sorry, I've had a crazy weekend. And it's from working. You can see it with the bags under my eyes. I trade all night, then I trade all morning. Or at least look at the markets. But he's a big fan of it. He's always sending shout outs to Dogecoin and such. So I don't really have anything intelligent to say about it.
What's the history there with that? As far as like, why is he, why is he doing shout outs and stuff like that? I find that fascinating.
It's a crowd favorite. Everybody knows about it, and it's fun, and
the internet goes wild.
I don't necessarily know the answers to that. And I don't know the future utility of Doge. Speaking of Doge, I hear my Doge barking in the background. But that's Ripple, by the way.
Ripple.
Ripple. It's okay. So, I don't really know the answer to that, but a lot of people get excited, and it's one of those things that people FOMO into, fear of missing out, that they jump on the tail and get out. But it to me, it is equally as dangerous as following GameStop. You're in way over your head, and you don't control any of it, and it's just going to fall out from underneath you. So I think the rally call is send Doge to $1, and it's at like 3 cents, right?
Yep.
So everybody's like, yeah. And it gets up to 10 cents or something crazy. Everyone's like, it's going to it. And then it just goes back to a penny. So it's a fun ride and a lot of great Twitter banter, but I don't do any of that stuff.
Yep. No, that's good. That's it. To me, it would be, hey, look, it could go to the moon. It could. We never know. That said, that's like going in a high risk. It's like playing slots in a casino that does not pay out. Where it's like, just expect that money gone. That would be my suggestion. That's my approach for me. If you're putting money into Doge, it could become whatever. But then again, you know what? People early on who put, $10 into Bitcoin when it was, 3 cents a coin, or, 0.3 of a cent, that was a shit ton of Bitcoin. And hey, if it does something, great.
Yeah.
But to go in, like, it has to be, I'm okay with losing at money for me. Like, it's no different than playing online slots or going into a casino. It's not on the same level of going and playing card games at a casino. or even roulette, which, roulette has horrible odds, for a lot of stuff. But I have better odds at a roulette table than Doge, from a long term, in my opinion. That said, it could skyrocket. Maybe, you put $10 in, it becomes $1 million. Hey, cheers to you. But you know what?
To that point though, so that can be applied to any coin out there.
Exactly.
However,
where do you stop?
If you take the foundation of what I've said with the custodies and how it moves in and out of banks and who's going to provide that servicing, and these are huge clearinghouses and billions of dollars you can't compete with that. So if you don't have a Dogecoin on your banking card, good luck, because it's all about custody solutions right now. So yeah. I've got some long shots that I put $500 in, and they're $4,000 or $5,000 right now in just a couple of months, and that's fun. But I'm not putting $100 grand in there and turn it into six. I couldn't even get it off the exchange if I did that. So, there's a vacuum type. Wouldn't it be cool if? And then there's, hey, this is reality, and I preach reality. So yeah. There's a whole lot of FOMO and awesome. Oh, if I get this, it's going to be the world reserve, and there's a narrative on every coin out there. Yeah. But you have to know the foundation of how it can be integrated into our society. And if it's just some dude with a coin and a dog and it's fine, well, I take that all into consideration.
Yep. Versus the meat and potatoes of banks integrating in, being able to swipe a card and pay if you choose with crypto. That is sustainable. That's real. That's fundamentals. And that's what's happening with these blue chips of Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash. And Paul, I thank you so much for taking time. I just love where the discussions go. We ended up kind of sitting and chewing a bit on Litecoin, and just thank you so much for your time.
Hey, I got a hard stop here and I got to get off, but I do have to say one more thing.
Okay, go.
To your audience. It is, when you listen to the Michael Saylors of the world, which is a CEO of a publicly traded company that's really driving a lot of this methodology and mathematical equation. As you listen to that, he explains how it benefits an insurance company or a bank. If it goes up 50%, you can do these pieces and you can issue bonds. It's all makes a lot of sense mathematically. But I highly recommend to take that as an individual approach down to your own orbit. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about.
Thank you for saying this, because actually earlier when you were talking about this at the beginning of the show, I was like, let's dig into that from us individual, because if it applies to business, it applies to us. So go for it.
So I'm going to use a Toyota truck as an example.
Okay.
In this instance, and this I'm speaking Czechoslovakian, this is all Bitcoin. So in this instance, I have invested $5,000 in Bitcoin last year, and this year it's $40,000. Where I'm just using simple math.
Yep.
And I want a $40,000 Toyota truck. So in our traditional society, I have reached the end point of this transaction. I've invested, I've got enough money. I'm going to exchange goods and services. I now get a truck. End of transaction. So that's the old way. And you finance it or however you do it and go into debt to get this truck is the way it's happening in today's world. So the new model looks like this. Instead of taking that $40,000 and putting it into a depreciating asset, I front run the money.
And depreciating asset, guys, means something that you own that goes down in value. Instead of going up, it goes down in value. Yep.
So in this instance, I can take, and I went to the dealership the other day just to ask them, could I even do this? But the math is something like this. If Bitcoin's getting 50% annualized averages over 4 years, which I believe it's more than that, but over 4 years, that's a good steady budgeting number moving forward. And then in theory, I'll let you do the math, and I got to run.
Okay.
In theory, I can take 4 years of payments for that truck. So let's say it's $500 a month. I don't know. I haven't done the math yet, but I can extend those payments for 84 months at an interest rate that's insulting, probably 4, 5, 6%. So I don't even know. I didn't ask interest rates, but let's say it's high and insulting.
Okay.
Nobody in their right mind would do that deal because you're paying $60,000, $70,000 for that truck. In the new model, I can take 4 years out of payments of my $40,000 that I have already. And let's say it's $15,000 in 4 years, or that's what I'll pay, and invest the rest of that into Bitcoin. That has in 4 years, we'll have a 10x multiplier on it. So that $40,000 becomes about $200,000 cash, and I've paid off half the car after 4 years. So then I can pay the rest of the car off and keep my $150,000 to myself. And you just can't compare the two. So when you look
that's
at banks,
crazy what you're talking about. And
it is,
and that
it applies to land. It applies to any asset that doesn't grow as fast as this. I can string out 4, 5, 8 years of payments, and at the end of that, pay it off in full and put a chunk of money in my pocket. Man, that's the way to do it. But I gotta run. I love your show, dude. I ended up going back and listening because I'm not a pretty face. I have to listen to my podcast, to your podcast. But I listened to it, and it was a good show. We got a lot covered, and I really enjoyed the topic. So if I can help, if there are more questions, if I can share with you my credit card, all my procurement piece coming down the road with cp3me.com, and the ability for, if you're a small business, why do all the Fortune 500s get to play, and don't you want a custody solution? So we can show how the average SME person can leapfrog your competition and compete with what these banks are doing. And, don't take my word for it. You got to go out and experience this yourself, do the math, get the information, do your own research. But I'm 4 years into this and just starting to kind of blossom in it. So I would like to compare what's happening in Bitcoin to bamboo. If you know how bamboo grows, it's essentially creating a massive footprint underground for the first 5 years.
Underneath, you don't see anything.
You don't know it's there. You don't know what's coming. But literally overnight, it explodes on the scene and you can't stop it. So with that, I believe that the going to zero.
Interest rate.
Not interest rate. Bitcoin going to zero.
Oh.
So if you look at the averages and the means of Bitcoin right now, where it could go, if you eliminate the zero factor, all of a sudden those numbers are a lot larger. And I read something, and I'll end it here. I read that if the main players of NASDAQ, like the main traders of NASDAQ, were to put 10% of their treasury into Bitcoin, just those players of NASDAQ alone, the price of Bitcoin would be over $400,000 per coin. So as you hear people like me saying, it could go to 300 grand, and you're like, yeah, whatever, dude, look at you, what do you know? But as you start to hear more and more people who are figuring this out, there'll be much more eloquent and official explanations of what we're babbling about. But you don't want to be last on that train. You need some exposure to this. And this is the time, because 2021, if we're not at 80,000, 100,000 by the third quarter, I'll be surprised.
Yep. I agree. I mean, past isn't always guaranteed for future, but it's a scary track record of the accuracy at which crypto and specifically Bitcoin is designed to move at. And Bitcoin really pulls the market of crypto as a whole.
It does.
Guys, study it. And maybe Paul, we have you on in a couple months again, and we could just have an episode talking about the cycle of it to help people understand that.
Yeah. Or where the conversations we had today and where we are in 3 months or 4 months. All of a sudden, what we're talking about, you've heard out on, your newscasts and your financial shows. And this is not just you and I have a crazy idea and we're going to go out and do this together. This is, it's done.
Happening.
It's happening.
Thank you so much. And guys, for those of you, be sure to hit subscribe, share this with a friend. And as always, engage in the conversation. Drop your questions below. Hit up on social at Michael Anthony TV. Keep kicking ass, living your life to the fullest. Peace.
That's a wrap. Congrats on investing in yourself with the Contract CFO Show, hosted by Michael Anthony. If you've enjoyed today's show, please leave a comment and tell a friend to check it out on YouTube or however they get their podcast on. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Michael Anthony TV. Visit michaelanthonytv.com to find show notes and past episodes. Plus, you can join the conversation by submitting questions and topics you want to hear. And remember, tomorrow can be better than today. The choice is yours. P.S. Don't be a dumbass. Remember, this is a conversation and not meant to be personal or legal advice.